Hello, it's Harry Brook here, Ag Fieldman for Flagstaff County, and today we're talking to Joy Agnew, who's with Olds College, and it's the smart farm that you have, right?
Right. Yep. And the smart egg ecosystem at Olds College.
You're listening to the official podcast of Flagstaff County.
So, what are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of things, I guess. It's really all pointed towards, improving productivity, profitability, and sustainability of ag production, and really helping technology and data utilization pave the way for that. So the smart farm is basically a 2,800 acre and growing living lab to allow us to learn about technologies, demonstrate them, validate them, develop them, and get that information out to producers and other stakeholders.
Okay, yeah, because I noticed that you're using the DOT system for automated automated seeding and other automated services. And it's interesting to see what you're doing with the new technology.
Right, and that's what we're here for. Is we are here to test and validate and really learn about how these technologies, like automation of broad acre crop production or automation of data flows or utilization of data, can help make in-season management decisions. It's all put together in a shiny, glossy sales document saying that it can do this, but we want to test it out in real Western Canadian ag conditions and then report that back to producers and the tech developers to make sure that these tools are really helping Western Canadian and Canadian farmers.
Well, could you maybe go through the tools one at a time and sort of explain what they do, or is it kind of an integrated approach where it's basically using all these little tools and together you have something that's so much greater, sort of a synergistic effect?
Yeah, no, it's very much sort of a broad blanket, I guess, where we have, I guess, themes of technologies and practices that we're adopting and validating on the farm. One is very much around automation, obviously. So automation of as many activities as we can, including some leading edge automation like DOT. Also, data is another pretty large umbrella under which we're doing a lot of work around collecting data using various sensors in field, collecting data using sensors from drones, collecting data and imagery from drones and satellites, and then figuring out what to do with that data.
That's the biggest challenge, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. It's easy. It's easy to collect terabytes and terabytes of data.
Yeah.
It's far more difficult to figure out what to do with it.
Well, and that's always what's got me when they've talked about the precision agriculture, that yes, you can collect all these huge volumes of data, but how do you actually transfer that data or use that data as a tool then to actually make profitability better on your field and on your farm?
One of the biggest challenges we see with that is getting the right data at the right spatial scale and then in the right format, and trying to get all the different data pieces talking to each other, or at least flowing together, so that they can be combined to help make some of those in-season management decisions.
So how's that coming along anyways?
Well, we're starting, I guess. And so we're starting by building what we're calling a hyper-layered data set. And this is being led by our Chief Technology Officer, Dr. Alex Melnichuk. Mm-hmm. He is basically digitizing every single piece of data that comes off of our fields in the right format at the right scale, so they can all be layered together, allowing us to connect dots and see trends that were never really visible before because everything was sort of dispersed or not in the same place. Right now, everything that we have from 100 acre field, and it includes hundreds of data layers, historical and recent, is all together in one spot. And we're now expanding that to include another, I think, 300 acres of our farm operations this year. So we will have a lot of data to start now figuring out which data layers are most critical for certain decisions. Excellent. And which data layers can farmers actually realistically collect and utilize to help them make decisions.
Yeah, because that's always what especially when precision agriculture, they talk about fertility and fertilizer, because that's kind of an easy, low-hanging fruit. But the biggest factor that always gets me is it's so dependent upon weather. Because in some years, if you got a real wet year, your lower areas will be drowned out. Your upper areas will be more productive. You get a dry year and it flips around, right? So how do you get that information to reflect also the climatic conditions?
Right. Water drives everything, and
Yeah.
weather is so unpredictable. Great question. And this isn't something, I guess, that we're developing, but we are definitely keeping our eye out and working with as many weather companies as possible on accurate, longer term forecasting tools that you have.
Sorry, I shouldn't
So
laugh.
well, yeah, I laugh too when I think about it, but that truly is, that's sort of the holy grail, right?
Yeah.
Of being able to use data and make these decisions that are based on water and weather. But the way the technology is advancing, the way that these algorithms are being developed and ground truth and tested, I think it's going to be possible in our lifetime that we will have far better forecasting tools to help then layer with all the other information you have about currently available soil nutrients and the current crop progress and crop health and everything else to make some of those in-season managements.
I have to laugh every time we get the long-term forecast from Environment Canada, because most of the times when they're going more than 2 or 3 days out, they are so wrong. They're right. It's because they got three choices here: greater than average, average, or less than average.
Right.
And usually, if they say it's going to be colder than average and snowier than average winter, it's usually the opposite.
Right. Yeah. So that's why I say it's the holy grail, and it's years away from being an actual tool, but it's something that we are keeping an eye on, and
Okay.
we want to be the first one to start evaluating. Okay, how accurate are these 7-day, 14-day, and 30-day forecasts?
So with the whole DOT system, which is that it's an automated carriage system that you slot in your tools, are you using it for total production in that 100-acre field?
Actually, far more than that now. So we are planning on seeding probably at least 300 acres with DOT this year.
Yeah.
And doing as much of our in-season spraying as we can with the sprayer unit. We'll also be laying down some nutrients with the spreader as well. So our goal with DOT operations is threefold, I guess, at the college. One is for our actual operations. So we are, seeding and spraying and spreading on a number of our production acres. But also from an applied research perspective, we are collecting data from the DOT equipment, both observational data and pulling the actual equipment operational data, just to better understand and better learn field efficiency, labor efficiency, and fuel efficiency of autonomous broad acre production equipment versus conventional.
Is it using, like, for refills? Does it automatically call for a wagon to bring one in without any human activity, or does it still have to be filled by a human?
It still has to be filled by a human, but it's not far off to think that it will all be automated, and that's the other play, I guess, that Olds College has with operating this equipment, is that we are working with the tech developers, including Raven Industries and other OEMs, or other, I guess, short line manufacturers or other tech developers, to advance that technology to improve obstacle detection and automate all of the auxiliary or tendering processes that happen with automation. So it's coming, and we want to be at the forefront of that. It's just right now, we're having to manually refill the equipment.
Okay, because I did read somewhere down in the States, one of the universities had actually managed to put in and take off a crop without any human activity on the land. So it's right on the cusp of where it can possibly go. And that's interesting because, of course, one of the biggest issues on the farms nowadays, due to their size, is a lack of getting good help when you need it, because you don't want them year round, right?
Labor shortages, for sure. Yeah. And the hands-free hectare demonstrations that you're referring to, and now I think they're expanding to hands-free farm in the UK, are great examples of the fact that, yes, we can do this. We can fully automate a lot of these activities and practices. What we're focused on at Olds College is very much the what is, near commercial, what is actually allowing us to do this at scale
Yeah.
versus, just let's
1
prove that we
hectare.
can do it at using open source technologies. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's really interesting to watch and see that yes, this is possible. Now let's scale this and get it to a commercial reality.
So what are you doing in the terms of like field scouting, pests, that sort of thing, and diagnostics? Is that all done using drones and near infrared spectroscopy or photography?
Yep, that and microclimate sensors and spore traps and various other digital tools that you can install in the field to monitor various spore loads and microclimate conditions, like we're talking the humidity under the canopy and temperature under the canopy, and comparing that with ambient. And there's all kinds of models and algorithms that will then predict the disease risk for that. So
Oh, yeah.
but again, what we're focused on is the applicability of those tools for Western Canadian crops. A lot of these algorithms are developed in other areas that are focused on other crops and have
Right.
other kind of climatic conditions. So we are really working with the tech developers on ensuring that tools are working for canola and wheat in our kind of environment.
You're basically trying to adapt it to our situation and also using those algorithms then to see if slight adjustments could make them work here.
Exactly. Yep. And then we also always want to relate it back to ROI, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, so it's great that this cool widget or gadget might be able to help us assess risk of a fungal infection, but did that really help the decision-making process, and did it help the bottom line? That's
Okay.
what we want to also assess.
Yeah, because I mean, there's all sorts of the bright and shiny, right?
Yeah,
The new stuff, but ultimately, will it pay for itself?
exactly.
Yeah, and I find that there's lots of new stuff out there, but when you start going down to the bottom line, it kind of thins things out a bit.
Lots of new stuff out there, and lots of things that are doing competing things. Like
Yeah.
in soil, like real-time soil nutrient sensors is one that we're keeping an eye on as well, because there's like 3 or 4 or 5 of them now popping up saying that they can do the real-time soil nutrient assessments. And they all do it slightly a different way, and they all have their pros and cons. So we want to test them all. We want to learn about them all on our farms, so that we can
Right.
provide some independent and third-party information back to producers who are interested in them.
Are you using those soil probes that were developed by University of Saskatchewan?
We are the PRS probes.
Yeah, the
that's,
PRS ones.
That's one of our probes in the comparison for sure.
Okay, and then are you doing any field testing to make sure that they're
Yes.
accurate?
Ground truthing always is
Yeah.
a big part of what we do, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets kind of expensive with soil tests.
And that's what we're here for. We're post-secondary. We have access to to some pretty incredible grant funding opportunities when we're doing this kind of research that is directly applicable to the ag industry. So we have the luxury of being able to do all of that on our farm.
Well, last year, was that the first year that you actually put in a crop and took it off with some of the automation?
With DOT, yeah, last year was our first year with DOT. But the smart farm, I guess, has technically been operating since 2018.
Right. So it's in early stages yet. I think it's
Very.
great because research, yeah, you can do all sorts of things on your square meter plots, but trying to scale that up to hundreds of acres, it's a different kettle of fish.
Very much agree. Yeah, we're living that dream right now.
So with the harvesting, are you using automation, or is it basically just a lot of sensors and there's someone managing the combine?
Yeah, no, we're not quite at the stage where we can, hands off automate the harvest operation itself. There are some interesting tools around automating the grain carts and auxiliary equipment that we'll be looking into this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now it's very much just on sensors right now on the combine. And our most unique, I guess, sensor on our combine that we were testing last year was the crop scan near infrared spectroscopy unit that in real time measures and maps grain protein. So it'll generate a grain moisture map and a protein map from your field, and that's just 2 more data layers to lay on top of all of the soil and imagery and all the other data that we're collecting from that field.
It sounds like you're going to come up with some very interesting results from it.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was another one that, it's actually a commercialized technology. It came out of Australia. I just learned this morning, there's 8 crop scan units in the central Alberta region right now, 7 of them with producers. We're the only one that's looking at it from a research angle. So they are, they're coming, or they're out there already. But again, we're looking at it through the lens of, okay, so how accurate was it, first of all? So we did some ground truthing. And then what is the payback? And I suspect, I know that there's got to be a payback for certain industries, like for certain grower conditions, like with malt barley for malt production.
Right.
But is there enough value for, say, oilseed production or in feed production for that to make sense? Those are the kinds of things that we're looking at.
So something just came up in my mind that I was wondering: are you dealing with anything to do with resistance issues and herbicides and integrated weed management or integrated pest management?
Yes, yeah, we are. So one area that we're looking at is the optical spot spraying equipment and the potential it will have to change the way that we manage weeds using various herbicide blends or hot tank mixes, I guess, just to give producers more options, because you don't have to spray a blanket across the entire field. You can target areas and weeds appropriately. So that's, I guess, one technology that we're looking at that will potentially address the herbicide resistance challenges.
Well, yes and no, because I know in like central Alberta here in our county, we have severe problems in some areas with both Group 1 and Group 2 herbicide resistant wild oats. And then you're starting to get very limited what you can use. And there's still resistance to Group 8 out there as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a huge issue and a huge challenge. And, technology like optical spot spraying might play a part of a role. The other side of the research that we're involved in is with integrated pest management, basically is looking at alternatives to herbicide and alternative agronomic management practices for weed, I guess, control.
Are you using any drones for weed control, not just selection, but also if you really want to be specific spot spraying for particular weeds? Have you got to the stage where you're using drones? Because I know there's some of the industry now is developing these drones with small sprayers on them.
Yeah. So we haven't deployed any of those yet on our farm, but we are definitely in conversations with many of those the companies that are developing those. So there may be an application for some demonstration validation on our farm, but not yet.
That's pretty interesting. You got a lot of stuff going on. What else are you dealing with?
So we talked a lot about crop production, I guess.
Yeah.
We also do livestock production and look at the technologies for livestock production and management of that. So on pasture management and grazing and rejuvenation of pastures, we're looking at the role of technology for remote grazing management, looking at rotational grazing versus conventional grazing, and being able to manage that remotely using things like virtual fencing systems and sensors for water level detection and fence energizer detection, various animal tags for measuring activity and health indicators of animals remotely. There's like an incredible amount of options, I guess, technologies out there, but really not proven in the Western Canadian conditions or Western Canadian climate. And the types of connectivity that's required for some of these tools as well is still new, I guess, for Western Canada.
It's still a challenge getting decent internet and cell phone coverage out in the countryside. Yes.
Yeah, and we're living that dream too, because we have pasture land that was donated to the college a couple of years ago down by Carstairs that doesn't have cell connectivity. We were able to set up a sort of a little private LoRaWAN network down there for our sensors. But even when we go down there, we send our team down there to troubleshoot or manage. They can't make a phone call because there's no cell connectivity down there. So yeah, we're dealing with those challenges by looking at alternative ways to get that connectivity down there, because we know it's the perfect use case for thousands, if not more, farmers in Western Canada that don't have that rural
Yeah.
connectivity.
So are you looking at, you're talking about the virtual fencing, would that be sort of like where the animals wear the collars and then you're using charges to direct the animals?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what we're looking at. We haven't deployed those yet, but we are hoping to this year.
It'd be great because you could say, okay, well, I want 30% of the grass left. And then you could, if using sensors and stuff, you could basically have it automated so it'll move them, keep them moving on to fresh stuff.
That's the holy grail there as well. Exactly. Yeah. And then the other thing we're looking at within that whole pasture management program is quantification and verification of practices for carbon sequestration and carbon offset. That is a huge, strategic area for us because we see everyone is sort of circling that carbon market situation. And for agriculture, it really comes down to being able to quantify the amount of emissions avoided and the amount of carbon being sequestered in the soil.
Well, I mean, we're paying the price for it as agriculture, but there's no recognition of the benefit.
Exactly.
And so that's where we need the research or the quantification so that there can be a case made for, okay, give them a break.
Yeah. And there's a huge role for technology and sensors to play in that as well.
Yeah.
So we're at the forefront of that too, I hope.
So you're working with cattle, you're working with crops. Are you doing anything with perennial crops like hay? And
of course, yeah, forage production is a big part of our farm operations so that we can feed our cattle. And then, looking at various ways or novel ways of managing forage production and, putting it into rotation with annuals and various ways of doing that with different tillage practices or different management practices. So we do forage production as well.
Biggest problem, of course, with making hay or taking forage is how to get it off. I guess you can use silage to take it off and not worry so much about the weather, but that is always a continual problem every June, July.
It is, and it's an extra challenge, I guess, for our farm, especially when we have projects that require a crop to go to a certain stage, and then if we want to make changes to that plan because of the way the season progressed and the way the weather is, it's sometimes hard to do that. But then then that's the challenge, I guess, that we have with trying to balance a commercial farm operation with applied research with teaching and learning, because everyone has their own requirements, and we always sometimes have to not compromise, I guess, but balance the economic benefit to one and the other benefits to the others.
Well, it sounds like you got a lot of interesting projects underway, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results over the coming years. Is there any last things you want to mention in particular that stand out at the moment, or is it's all just sort of formative?
I guess we're still sort of formative, but it's going to explode here, I'd say, in the next year. And it might have been last year if it wasn't for COVID, but we recognize the need to get this information out. So we are building what we hope is a really robust extension and dissemination platform.
Somebody better do it.
through our website, through events like Ag Smart. We're planning on hosting a number of webinars, lunch and learns. We have a newsletter that's now already active. Just getting this information out so that people can learn about what we're doing and how it might affect their operation.
Well, thank you, Joy. Would it be possible maybe to check back with you in a year's time?
Absolutely. And I'm sure I'll have all kinds of new things to talk about by then.
Okay, thanks. And by the way, let the ag fieldmen know throughout the province about any results that you might want to be promoting, because there's a lot of them out there in the countryside that could be used also to at least spread the word.
Absolutely, and they might get pulled into a project or two, because we need more boots on the ground. We need more scout people with scouting reports to provide us with information. So they might even be actively involved if they're okay with that.
Oh yeah, well, I am, but I have to check with them all on an individual basis. But
sure.
Thanks a lot, Joy. I appreciate this and appreciate the time you've given us for this.
I appreciate the invite to come talk about it. So thanks, Harry.
Thanks. You take care and have fun.
I will. You too.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.